There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Juju Show number 7, 14 weeks down, infinite number to go. This week we've got some community news, some awesome new product stuff to show off. And so let's get this started with some introductions. Brad, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Brad. I work on the Juju UI team.
Awesome. James, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Rick. James Beatty here, DevOps engineer for Creative Drive.
Our community stand-in. Jeff, this is your first time here. How you doing?
It is. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff. I'm also on the Juju UI team with Brad.
And he's going to show cool stuff later. All right, Kevin.
Hey, I'm Kevin Monroe. I'm working on some big data stuff, or big data charms, and also some CI bits that hopefully, if we have time, I'll chime in a little bit at the end with.
Ooh. Extra added features. Marco, how you doing, man?
Good. Hey, Marco.
All right. Well, I wanted to jump into our community news of the week. And the first thing I wanted to point out was that Mr. Marco here did a Kubernetes webinar a little bit ago since our last show. And sounds like it went over pretty well. So I wanted to kind of give folks a link. Marco, you want to kind of talk about what you guys were showing in that?
Yeah, this is one of several webinars that we'll be giving out. So this first one is just getting started with Kubernetes. It's kind of a hot topic these days. So we talk about how we use things like Conjure-up to produce Kubernetes clusters and how Canonical roles a distribution of Kubernetes. The next one will be about how you do validation for Kubernetes clusters. And then we'll have a series about upgrades, configuration, and then running workloads on top of Kubernetes with CDK.
Yeah, that's cool. I saw an email with a reference to a Kubernetes-E2E charm that looked new and fancy. Is that related to that upcoming webinar then?
Yeah, just so you know, that just basically we have a way that you can run upstream's conformance validations to make sure that your cluster is in the same conformance as what upstream considers a valid working cluster to start operating against. So that's part of that for sure is, you know, a quick way to do validation of your cluster, as well as other things that you need to make sure that your deployment is functional like you'd expect from an upstream cluster.
Well, that sounds like a lot of useful stuff there. So that's cool. Look forward to the next one. If you want a link, I'll have a link in the show notes to the last one. Go back and watch it and check it out if you're interested in getting going with your Kubernetes. It's a great way to get started. And with that, I wanted to dive into the big news from the last 2 weeks, and that is that Juju 2.1.0 was released. Yay! New versions, new toys, new goodies. It includes the network changes we've been talking about for a while. It includes the model migrations work that we've been talking about for a while for handling your kind of bulletproof upgrade scenarios. Like a lot of good stuff in there. We'll have a link to the whole release notes, but 2.1 of Juju and Conjure-up are available. So everyone get your upgrades going on. It's time to do that Juju upgrade Juju dance on all your running stuff out there to get the new goodness. Or to go and get that migration going. Bootstrap a new controller and run a migration to move your controller from one to another. What's your guys' favorite stuff in the new release?
Okay, so I have a feature, but it's not in the release. It says it's a preview in the 2.1 release. There's so many good things, but I'm super pumped about the idea of cross-model relations.
Yeah, so I think this is in here behind a feature flag you can tinker with. It's something that I know has been requested a lot. It's the idea that, hey, I want to run one large Nagio setup and monitor all my production workloads and all my other models, and the ability to do that with the kind of model it with relations is an exciting thing coming down the pipe. So I think there's a lot of good use cases for that. Definitely, you can play with it and try it. I'm trying to remember if there was notes in the thing about how to actually go through and test it out, but we'll see how that comes along for 2.2, which is actually coming not too far away.
Yeah, and from the UI side of things, the Juju GUI command now automatically will print the username and password and a link to open the GUI right from the terminal without having to use any additional flags or anything like that. So it makes the use of the GUI a lot nicer.
Yeah, we've got one more step we need to do on that. Remember the old days of Juju Quick Start where it would do the one-time token to auto-log you in?
Yes.
I feel like that's something we need to make sure we come back around to because it's one of those small things that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's definitely on the roadmap. So if anybody really wants to see that, maybe go file some issues on the GUI repository so that we can prioritize it.
Cool. And one more thing I'll call out in here. I mentioned in a previous Juju show that I was looking at the idea of how to operate your Juju controllers. And this release has the Prometheus instrumentation of Juju, where you can track how many models, how many users, how much memory the Juju controllers processes are eating up. There's a lot of good detailed information you can kind of ship out through Prometheus to track and trend over time as part of watching and monitoring your production Juju infrastructure. And so I got that running from 2.1, and I'm working on some documentation and some tooling around to help make it easier to get that going. So maybe in a future Juju show, I'll demo some of the stuff I've been working on around that so that you can really take your operating Juju to the scale out next level. Alrighty. Next up, one thing I wanted to kind of wait. Someone's got a favorite.
I know. Surely somebody else was going to say this, but I like the Add Cloud interactive, little walkthrough thing. I don't know how many times I've had to manually copy YAML to try and get my OpenStack Cloud sort of set where I need them. The Add Cloud walkthrough is money. I like it.
Definitely. If you're getting started, it makes it much smoother to get going, prompting you for the right credential fields and values and sanity checking them along the way. It was kind of fun. I demoed this and I pointed at someone else's Maz and I messed up the Maz URL. I forgot to put the /Maz at the end of the URL to the for the Maz thing. And the Juju came back and said, sorry, I can't connect to that Maz. That's a bad URL. And I was like, no, really? And I was like, oh, right. So I went and looked and I added my /Maz and I said, okay, all is well. And it's one of those things where, it's a typo. It's 4 characters or whatever or something in a URL that I wouldn't have noticed till I went and bootstrapped later. Then I would have been going through the logs of why did bootstrap fail or whatnot. And so having that jump out and go, Rick, you're a moron, like early and often was one of those like, okay, this is good stuff. I'll take it.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, now I'll go on. The next thing I wanted, one is just kind of informational, but two, to kind of make a point. The OpenStack team, which has their array of charms that they have upstream and manage in the OpenStack community, has moved where the bug tracking for those charms are. And the new URL is just launchpad.net/OpenStack-charms. What I wanted to one is just let folks know, hey, if you're interested in filing bugs and such in the OpenStack charms, it's moved. And each charm has its own project in there, I believe, so that it makes it much easier to track what bugs are open on this charm in a nice, clean way. But the flip side of this is what I wanted to point out is that something that I'm really proud of the work that got done on the charm store work, where you can keep your charms wherever you want. You can track the bugs wherever you want. This is a case where the code for the charms, I believe, actually lives in GitHub in the upstream OpenStack repositories. But here they're actually tracking bugs over in Launchpad because it helps them do very series and milestone tagged and tracked bug features that they like to leverage. And you can update and point users to where your bugs are tracked for your charm using the charm command to just set the, I believe it's called the bugs-URL attribute of your charm. And then users will get that on the jujucharms.com webpage for the charm details for your charm from the command line and everything. And so I just want to encourage folks, one, to track the OpenStack charms, but also remember that, you know what, you can work on your charm however you want to, and you can help your users find where they can file those bugs and help participate in development by setting that bugs URL of your charm. Everyone here put the bugs URL on all their charms. Do I have to scold anybody? Come on. All right. Everyone here knows all the goodness. And that's really all I got for news this week. I figured with the release and stuff, I have some good stuff. Oh, I do have a question came in from Sandor Zeestraten. I'm going to butcher the names here. I need to volunteer someone else to say them so that I don't get blamed. But he had a question particularly about, I have a bundle with a mix of static and more dynamic configuration options, such as secrets, which I like to keep separate, i.e. in a separate file, environment variables, or pull from somewhere else like Vault. And he asked, what would be a good approach to do this? And this falls under a couple of things. One is that, yes, this is good practice. It's good operations, and we definitely know that this is what users need and want to do. the missing feature we have in Juju to support this is kind of deploy time configuration override on bundles. The idea being you'd be able to Juju deploy my bundle and then override config that's in the bundle or not listed in it, but available with something separate that you could pull in that might have the secret values and things in. And that helps you go from something that's part of the model, right? The very generic, this is the applications related in this way with this network topology with all this, you know, very specific model bits, from some things that are not repeatable, right? Like you have different secrets every time you deploy that thing. Otherwise, that would be ungood to have shared secrets across every time you deploy the same modeled architecture of something. So we've got that item on our roadmap and to-do list. And this is something that we do today. And with a different tool, there's a tool called Mojo, and Mojo was written to kind of help supply the tooling to be able to do this. It adds some complexity on top of bundles. And in the show notes, I've got links to they're kind of old now. There's some blog posts that were done by some of the developers of Mojo. They did a 3-part series on how Mojo kind of distills down the operations and enables some of these good practices. So I know that that's been updated for Juju 2. You know, we kind of revamped how things work. It's what we use to get things in production. So if you go to jujucharms.com, that's kind of deployed with Mojo to our infrastructure. And so, you know, I'd encourage folks that are battling with this problem to take a look back at those blog posts and to, you know, ask questions in IRC and such, and to give that a shot while we get a chance to update Juju to better support the kind of missing gap features that we need in order to make that happen.
The one thing I'd like to add to this too is that if you're a GUI user, you can add a bundle to your model, and before you actually hit commit to commit all those changes, you can go in and modify all of the charm configuration options using the inspector. So then you can make all the changes you want in there, click deploy, and then it'll go through and deploy the bundle as usual.
Cool.
So kind of an interim stopgap there for making those changes.
It's definitely handy when you're doing one-off testing and such, when you're interactive and the guy's sitting there. The nice thing with Mojo is it's a command line tool that's scriptable that you can automate and all that. So definitely check it out. You guys done anything else to help battle these situations? No, this is the tried and true. All righty. And we've got one more question in IRC, it looks like here. Sandor is also asking about any updates on the Juju Charm store showing the bindings available now that they need to be set explicitly for containers in 2.1. And my answer to that is no, I don't have any updates. I've not talked to the Charm store folks to see if it's on the radar at all. The good news is that would be a great bug to file. GitHub.com/ I'll put a link in the show notes here, but it's github.com/canonicalltd/jujucharms.com to always file bugs on jujucharms.com and the UI there. And that will help get the bug to the right team, and then we'll get it addressed. And I can bring it up personally next week. We have an engineering sprint in New Orleans. So if anyone's interested in meeting up for some beverage and meats in New Orleans, there'll be a lot of Juju folks in town. So maybe we'll bring it up there and see what folks think. Yeah, Kevin says shrimp. All right. So that is the news of the week. 2 weeks, I guess. Next up, I want to talk about something like I can't believe how excited I am to say this out loud. There was a ton of work in Juju 2 to kind of make it scale out. Multiple users, multiple models, a lot of work in the performance of controllers, you know, permissions, ACLs. And what I really see is the kind of the coming to fruition of that. I mean, this is great tooling for everyone to have available. But what it's enabled Canonical and us to do is to look at putting together something to help make Juju easier to use. And that's something we like to call JAAS, which is Juju as a Service. And Jeff is here to tell me why I'm so excited and maybe give us a little demo.
That's right. This is the, I guess, the official unveiling of Juju as a Service beta, which we are calling JAAS. It is a hosted Juju controller that is managed by Canonical. It's HA. And what this means is that you don't have to run your own controller. You don't have to Juju bootstrap. You don't have to manage a controller. You don't have to upgrade a controller. Everything from that standpoint is handled by us. It also provides you the ability to work across multiple clouds and to do easy identity management and sharing and access control. Really the best way for me to tell you about this is to show you how it works. So I'm going to do a screen share here, and I will switch to jujucharms.com. So can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
You're good.
I see it.
Perfect. All right. So like I said, we're on jujucharms.com here, and there are a number of ways you can get started here. You can click by Start Modeling. I am going to, just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to start by signing in. And that is going to immediately take us to the GUI. And in a second here, I guess I will close that. And so this brings us right to the GUI in our profile page. And so here we can see things where, we can see models that others have shared with me, my bundles, my charms, etc. And so we can switch to view these, modify these depending on our access control. And we can start to create a new model here. And so here you can see we're on the GUI itself. The typical GUI that you are used to. You can see at the top here, we're untitled model because we're not actually in a model yet. And over here, you can still see the ones which were shared with me. So I guess what I might as well start with here, since we were talking about Kubernetes before, is I'm just going to go into the charm browser here in the GUI, and I am going to grab the Canonical Kubernetes bundle and add that to the canvas. So this, as well, this is adding here. All this stuff is publicly available, so you can follow along just by going to jujucharms.com and clicking either Start Model or Sign In if you've already got an Ubuntu One account. So as you can see here, we've got our bundle added to the page, and like I mentioned before, if we wanted to, we could go in and we could actually modify the configuration options of this application. But for now, I'm just going to do a typical deploy here. So as you can tell here, I didn't bootstrap. I'm just using this right from my browser. So when I go to deploy changes, what I can do here is I can name my model. So I'll just, something really basic there. And then again, you can see here, we can choose which cloud we want to deploy to. Right now we've got AWS, Azure, and GCE. And so it's simply a case of just selecting AWS, and then it's going to show any credentials which I have already added here. Or we
I want to make a point here, right? So what we want to kind of clarify is that Canonical is running operating the controllers, but the machines, the VMs necessary to run this Kubernetes is going to come out of your own cloud credentials. So right, so yes. Jeff's AWS credentials are going to pay. They're going to foot the bill for the VMs that this Kubernetes runs, and he can have multiple credentials, switch between them for different workloads, and then pick. Looks like you can pick different regions and things to deploy to. So anywhere you have credentials, so AWS, Azure, or GCE, they're supported, and it's kind of bring your own credit card for the cloud portion of the build.
That's right. Yeah. So when you're once we have selected the credentials here for AWS in this case, we can then specify the region we want to deploy.
Not AWS East. I hear the bad things happen there. Let's go somewhere else.
That's right. I'm just going to leave it as my default because I know that one works right now. So like Rick mentioned there, you can see here that we have the type of machines that we're going to be deployed to, the provider, AWS in this case, and then we're going to be spinning up 9 of them for this bundle. And these will be billed through my AWS account. And then we're going through and we're listing the applications to be deployed. And this is the same GUI flow that you have been using before. And just to kind of expand this a little bit more, right here, this model changes is going to show all of the actions that the GUI is going to perform on your behalf to deploy this bundle. So now that we have done that, I'm simply going to click deploy. And we will wait for this to be sent off to the controller to deploy. So there we go. This is now using the JAAS controllers to deploy these, or to spin up these 9 machines and deploy these applications into a model using your own cloud credentials.
And so I think let's talk about something here. Like, what's the kind of the value add of having Canonical run these controllers for you? Like, in particular, what are you getting that you may not realize?
Right. So there, a few of the big things here are that you're going to get an HA controllers, so highly available controllers, right out of the box. So you're not going to have to spin up and run 3 or more controllers yourself. You're not going to have to manage them. So if you ever have to do any updates or user controls or any of that sort of stuff, you're just simply not going to have to do that. That's all managed by us. And like I showed you before with these models here, you can easily just create models and share them with other people in your organization without having to do that user management locally. So it's going to save you quite a bit of money not having to run, HA controllers.
Yeah, and those are monitored and tracked, so that if in case of any kind of issues,
that's right.
through our own internal stuff, right? So
that's right. Yeah,
it's basically what's nice is it's basically taking Juju into a SaaS-like product, right? Where it's, you get the benefits of the pros running it.
Yeah, exactly. And there are metrics being collected on the controllers, so you'll be able to have access to that to see kind of how your models are operating and whatnot. So I guess to continue on with this demo, this isn't just a strictly GUI type of feature. This can also all be managed from the CLI. So I'm just going to switch to the CLI right now.
Real quick, before you head to the CLI, grab that browser while you got it. Marco's got a question here about sharing. Could you share that with someone here? Like, let's.
I certainly can. So, what would a user name that
R Harding
full name.
Yeah.
For recording it.
There you go.
So I can give you read access just by doing this. I can also give you write access or admin access to this model. So I just simply click done. And now, Rick, you'll be able to go into your JAAS profile and see this model there.
Awesome. I'll have to go look. One thing I want to point out is if you give someone write access to the model and they go through and make modifications, deploy new applications or scale things up or down or whatnot, right? That is billed to the account that's responsible for it, right? So Jeff is the owner of it. He's given me write permission, which is very trusting, and I appreciate. And I'm now going to go launch a bunch of stuff on here so that it gets to his credit card instead of mine. But okay, cool. So sorry, yeah, let's go to the CLI.
Sure, right. So in the CLI, typically when you Juju Bootstrap, you're going to have a controller, right? So to kind of start this out from a fresh, fresh state, if I list controllers, you'll see I have no controllers registered. So to be able to use JAAS from the CLI, you simply need to Juju register. And then for the JAAS controller, which right now is at jim.jujusharms.com. So once I click this, I need to name it. So I'll name it as JAAS, and there we're done. So if I hadn't already logged in via the CLI, it would present you with a link where you would click it, you would log in the browser, and you would then gain access via the CLI. So you can see here, we have the 3 models, which we had in the profile view before. So at this point, I can just simply run Juju switch, it's test, switch to that model, and I can run my Juju status on here. And now I am able to actually operate Juju through JAAS just like I would if I had bootstrapped this controller myself. Again, all HA managed by the controller, managed by Canonical, and do the sharing, and yeah, it's a fully functional Juju controller.
That's kind of sweet.
Yes,
your Kubernetes going through. So that's, I mean, this is just kind of exciting in a sense of, oftentimes folks found getting started with Juju a little bit cumbersome, and that they had to grab a controller and it would take another machine up and whatnot. And I think having multiple users where you don't have to actually send around, the register command you see there, you might see that familiar if you've ever added a user to your own controller, then sent that register command to someone else to basically get your controller running within their client so they can use it. So it's kind of everyone's got access, or just about has access to this JAAS space with their own Ubuntu SSO account. So
exactly, and you can see here where I did the list models, where right from the CLI, I'm able to access multiple clouds and multiple regions from multiple users. So without having to switch between new controllers and whatnot. So yeah, really convenient.
Very cool. So let's see. Right now we support what? The big 3 public clouds, right?
Yes.
And we have to have a controller there for it to work, so it'll show in the drop downs. You can create models from the CLI, right? So you could create a model right there. It's just, you don't have to go through the GUI stuff. They could be, set up tear down models. They don't have to be shared or anything. Could be just used for your own. What else? I guess this is, just to be 100% clear, this is a in beta public kind of preview right now. You'll notice a lot of stuff that'll change over time. I think the URL will change. It won't be jim.jujucharms.com in the future. You notice Jeff had a few at externals. Those will turn into, I think probably, at JAAS or at Juju or something in the future. Yeah. So it's definitely, I want to kind of, let folks know that it is a beta product. There's still some, we're working very hard on it, and there's going to be, I'm sure there'll be some growing pains and stuff, but we would love to get folks interested in trying this out, to give it a walkthrough. Go to jujucharms.com, sign in, and just start deploying things and let us know how it goes. You can provide feedback in the Juju IRC channel, on the Juju mailing list, and that bug tracker I mentioned, the Canonical Limited /jujucharms.com, and this is part of our jujucharms.com website. So you can feel free to file bugs and things there if you hit any issues. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I am blown away. This is off the chain.
Glad you like it.
Yeah, crazy cool. I do have a question for you though. How would I go about upgrading Juju on my models? Let's say the HA controllers have been upgraded to 2.1 or 2.2 in the future. Do I have the power from the CLI to type Juju upgrade Juju on my models? Does that work?
So that's actually, I just, before this call, was just talking with folks about that, because I had the question. Normally in Juju, you upgrade the controller and then you upgrade the models individually, right? Because you can't have a model that's newer than your controller, because the controller has all the API endpoints. And if you try to use a new feature in 2.2, but the controller doesn't know how to talk 2.2, it can't work, right? Sure. So right now in the beta, what's currently going on is that I believe that that's kind of run by the folks that are operating Juju. They're going to upgrade the controller and the models go kind of along for the ride. What we want to do is to actually build into the system using model migrations, the more kind of bulletproof upgrade scenario where you would leave your stable stuff stable, and then at some point in time, you would be able to kind of have a maintenance window where you'd be able to schedule that migration of your model from a 2.1 controller to a 2.2 controller within the hosted JAAS kind of ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I think that's coming down the road, like being able to kind of schedule that that window when there's a maintenance window, maybe when things aren't used as much, or you're not going to have to be, because while things are migrating, you can't perform operations like scaling, configuration changes and stuff. So it needs to be something that you can kind of, handle and operate on your own business, rules and timelines. So for the moment, for the beta, I think just along for the ride. I know there was an email yesterday around getting them upgraded to 2.1. I think they're at 2.0.3 right now today. And so they should hit 2.1 soon. And as we work through the process there, you can expect that turnaround time to get tighter and tighter as we get between beta and GA. Oh, he's still presenting. I'm sorry. Thanks, Marco. That's because I hit make Jeff present everything all the time so you can look at his lovely Canadian scruff there. All right. Well, I mean, Jeff, thanks for walking us through that. Anything you want to leave folks with? Any questions on IRC or anything? I see some folks in IRC seem like they're excited about it, so that's cool.
Yeah, really we just want to see people using it, letting us know what they like about it, what they don't like about it, so that we can just continue to work hard on making it better for everyone.
Cool. And I just want to say the teams have done a lot of hard work over a lot of time. What's like back to where we started with, I really see like this was what a lot of what Juju 2.0, the features and things that went into that were to enable stuff like this to happen. So it's exciting to see that kind of loop close of adding things into Juju itself so that we can turn around and leverage those to provide a better experience for everyone. So, all righty. That's all I've got for this week. Now, Kevin, you wanted to say something before we go?
Yeah. I should have gone before Jeff because I don't want to,
It's a tough act to follow. I grant you.
Yeah,
you're pretty much toast, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it'll just take a couple minutes. I wanted to talk about something that just landed this morning in the context of CI for Charms, right? So in the past and on the show a couple of times, we've talked about this CWR CI system where when you make a commit to a Charm source repo, this thing will automatically build it, test it, push it, and release a charm if you wanted to. And then a couple weeks later, we added the capacity to watch the charm store. When any charm store changes happen, you could also trigger a build, test, release cycle. And today we have just landed the capacity to do all those operations on PR. So if your charm source lives in GitHub, you can register your request to CI the system whenever a pull request comes in. That's based on some user feedback that said, look, CI on commit is great, but by the time I've committed, it's too late. If I don't know that it's worked by then, that's too late. So we've made some tweaks and adjustments and like I mentioned, just landed that PR capability today. So it's really cool. I'll write up some documentation about this as a new workflow for the CI system and shoot that off to the list later today. Awesome.
No, I look forward to seeing that. That's great. Always love when good development practices are kind of just built into the system out of the box. So put that stuff on Rails so that people are doing the best practices that they can. That's awesome. Appreciate it. All right, well, this is going to wrap up the show. We'll have a follow-up blog post and email to the list around the JAAS beta program. It's open to everyone now. It's kind of in public. It's been open for a little bit, but we've kind of not talked about it a whole lot as we kind of make sure that things aren't going to fall over. I know James here, you've been beating on it for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I've been putting in some work.
Yeah. So so it's time to kind of move things up to the next level. So all right, I'll leave everyone with that. Thank you. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks after we get back from New Orleans. We'll see what fun and interesting stuff comes out of that sprint next week. I'm looking forward to it. So long.
Thanks.